Okay, this next part we're very excited about. 12.04 resolution opposing Ohio House Bill 70, and Mr. Velardo is going to read the resolution out loud for all of us. But can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
This is the Youngstown Plan.
Yes.
More commonly known as the Youngstown Plan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very important wording, very important issue, I think, for those of us that feel local school boards and teachers are really charged with local education. And so most in the room, I would gather, know about House Bill 70. So let me just read the resolution. Whereas boards of education, as the fourth branch of government, were instituted to provide for the public function of education at the local school district level, and whereas boards of education have been essential and viable units of government for all community school districts in the Ohio public common school system since 1821, and whereas with the exception of Cleveland, all boards of education have been and continue to be elected by their respective communities to serve their school districts, and whereas boards of education engage professional administrators, teachers, and other staff members to provide educational opportunities within the policies adopted by the board, and whereas the employees of the school districts are accountable to the boards of education, and in turn the boards of education are accountable to their respective communities. And whereas this model of democracy has a long tradition of successful and efficacious governance, and whereas the governor of Ohio, Ohio's superintendent of public instruction, and other persons with no input from or discussions with the Youngstown Board of Education, the State Board of Education, the Youngstown mayor, city council, or any other elected public officials in Youngstown, secretly concocted the Youngstown Schools Plan. And whereas the Youngstown Schools Plan completely usurps the constituted powers of the Youngstown Board of Education, and whereas the Youngstown Schools Plan was enacted without those affected elected officials or school patrons having any opportunity for a hearing. And whereas the Youngstown Schools Plan may face a constitutional challenge, therefore be it resolved that the Westerville City School District Board of Education requests the Ohio 131st General Assembly repeal the Youngstown Schools Plan in its entirety, and be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the Governor of Ohio, each member of Ohio's 131st General Assembly, each member of the Ohio State Board of Education, Ohio's Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Youngstown School Board of Education, and the Ohio School Boards of Education.
Thank you. Art, you want to take the roll?
No, I want to say something. I am not going to let this go without talking about this. When I saw that this had happened, I thought it was something from The Onion. I thought it was a joke. I really did. Because this came before the General Assembly and was passed within 24 hours. The Democratic caucus within the General Assembly had 2 hours to review it. No opponent testimony was permitted. This was shoved through after being developed secretly. It is an appalling assault on local education. Whatever you think of Youngstown schools or their performance or anything else, you need to look, we all need to look at what this actually means to public education in the state of Ohio. I was looking online to see how the various newspapers within the state had covered it, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer did a really, really thorough job of talking about it. I want to read to you the duties of this CEO that would be appointed, that will be appointed if this is not repealed or thrown out by the courts, that will be appointed to take over Youngstown. Yeah. Duties would include, as described by the Legislative Service Commission, replacing school administrators and central office staff, assigning employees to schools and approving transfers, hiring new employees, defining employee responsibilities and job descriptions, establishing employee compensation, allocating teacher class loads, conducting employee evaluations, making reductions in staff, setting the school calendar, creating a budget for the district, contracting for services for the district, modifying policies and procedures established by the district board, establishing grade configurations of schools, determining the school curriculum, selecting instructional materials and assessments, setting class sizes, providing for staff professional development. The CEO could close struggling schools, the CEO can change union contracts, and the school board would be appointed by the mayor, not elected. In other words, it entirely turns over the conduct, the governance, and the educational processes of the Youngstown City Schools to the state's appointees. I have a huge problem with that. When I put something on Facebook about this, when it first came out, a good friend of mine said, "Why does this bother me?" And it's because what happens to Youngstown today is set to happen to Lorraine tomorrow, and then, depending on how the state chooses to decide what schools are so-called failing, could happen to any of us. It is an extreme assault on local control. And I urge the General Assembly to pay attention to the districts like Westerville that are pushing resolutions forward about this. I urge Governor Kasich to address the issue, and I urge the Youngstown City School Board of Education to keep fighting.
Wonderful, very well said.
I would just add, I'm actually looking forward to the Supreme Court case on this. It has been proven time and time again, even within our own community, that the Ohio State Supreme Court stands very firmly against the invalidation of popularly elected decisions and officials. The reason that local government exists is because it's reflective of the community that is providing, or that is being provided service by that elected body, being represented by that elected body. This CEO for the Youngstown plan has no necessary connection to the overall school district. What's been done has been, amazing to me, just from the standpoint of the boldness of it, the secrecy, the fact that there was a bipartisan against vote in our state legislature, which is rare. Yet not enough votes to keep this from being passed through secretly and in the night. And I think it's also important for friends and colleagues and staff that are here. If you have not done so, I would encourage you to look and see who is suing in this case, because there are a lot of commonalities in that community when it talks about the community coming together to run a Supreme Court case to invalidate this decision by the state. And I think that that's a reflection of a strong community. I know Youngstown has its challenges, but the fact that the entire community is coming together to fight this thing is giving me optimism. But I do believe that the state Supreme Court is just simply going to put a boot on it.
I surely hope so.
The only thing I'll add, and I read it and I tried to read it as if you could hear some of my heart in this. Agree with you, Richard, completely, except the very first part. And what I'm going to say, this is not snarky. This is what I'm thinking. This is coming from the same folks who can't get the school funding formula right, even though that same court that we hope will now come at this. So I know where you're going with that, and I hope the same thing. It's very disconcerting. My only problem with, I wish Nancy would speak a little more forcefully. I just worry she holds back too much. But I know. One of the places I thought you were going, listen, we're all here for a lot of reasons, and we're going to hear a lot of discussion and comments. I'm fine with that. That's good. This is something that no matter what color shirt you're wearing, I hope we can all get behind this, and maybe all of us can do some letter writing and some phone calling and be on the same page with this, because it'll trickle down. The more that power is removed, the more power people will want to remove.
Okay, Bart. Thank you.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Dr. French,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes.